I'm Tom, aka Gentleman Grimm. In this series of videos I'm looking at what makes whisky whisky. In this episode I'll be looking at single grain. So a single grain whisky, like with a single malt whisky, is made at a single distillery. The grain part means that it's made from a mixture of one or more different grains. Those can include malted barley, wheat, rye, corn. So if you can use malted barley to produce a single grain whisky, how would that whisky be different from a single malt whisky? Loch Lomond have done this recently, where they produced a single grain whisky made from 100% malted barley. The difference is they didn't distill it in a copper pot still, which is one of the SWA's definitions for a single malt whisky. Instead, they distilled it in a coffee or continuous still. That's not coffee as in the drink, it's coffee as in Aeneas Coffee, who invented the coffee still. That means it can't be called a single malt whisky because it wasn't distilled in a copper pot still. So although it's made from 100% malted barley and meets all the other regulations for a single malt, it's not a single malt, it's a single grain. Okay, so that means that for it to be a single grain, it has to be distilled in a coffee or continuous still, right? Wrong. So what actually is the SWA's definition of a single grain whisky? Their definition is really vague. Basically that it's whisky that's been distilled at a single distillery but isn't a single malt and isn't a blend. Makes perfect sense, right? You could actually have a single grain whisky that was distilled in a copper pot still. Now if you did that with one that was 100% malted barley and you distilled it in a copper pot still, it would just be a single malt. But if you use different grains or a mixture of different grains, then it wouldn't be a single malt, even though it's been distilled in a copper pot still. I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you've not already, please subscribe and hit the bell to keep updated with videos in the future. That's not coffee as in the beverage, but so single grain whisky can contain whisky made blah 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 traffic, hate traffic, start again. A single malt whisky has to be distilled in a copper pot still. Copper pot. And looking at different what I've just said, different whiskies. What makes a single grain? Don't know.